Christine said, I am Jenny Powell. I live in the Atlanta, Georgia area and work for OCLC, which is in Dublin, Ohio. I worked on the Geek campaign for approximately 5 years, and most people call me the Geek Girl. So either word, either name works well. Well, who here has heard of Geek the Library? Kind of, sort of? Yeah. Okay, so it's all pretty new. Well, this is a great community campaign. It's funded by the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation, so it's absolutely no cost to you. I hope you geek free. We give you all the materials to be able to take this out to your community and engage in a conversation about what's important to them. It actually asks the question, what do you geek? What's important to you? What do you love? And no matter what that is, our public library can help you with that. So today, I'm just going to kind of quickly cover the agenda and then we'll get into it. I'll provide you an overview of Geek the Library. We'll talk about some ways that public libraries, and I have one here in Vermont that I'll use as an example, how they've connected with their community and made sure that the folks living there know and understand that the library is what can help make a vibrant community. I'll introduce you to the CMC. We call it the Campaign Management Center, and it's an online site that you can dial into, absolutely free. It's got everything that you need, press releases, logos, artwork, anything that you need. It's got even the how-tos, how to run a campaign and implement it from start to finish. I'll give you some easy ideas, and I'm going to show a lot of pictures because I think once you see it, then you'll say, I could do that because I'm probably doing something similar to it anyway, and then I'll stop for questions. But I do want to keep this interactive. I like to have a conversation, just as the campaign allows you to have a dialogue with people. I'd rather not stand up and talk slides. I want you to ask me questions, or if you have a brainstorming idea, or you just want to say, how does that work? Ask. You don't need to raise your hand. We're a small enough group where we can do that. I do want to start with asking you to think about, what does your own advocacy look like in your library? What are some of the points of outreach you do or activities that you do to go out and talk to your public and really promote and advocate for your library?
You know, could have a couple sheets of white paper.
Well, the type of thing, I mean, we send out just the average, the newsletter gets sent out twice a year. I keep our Facebook updated and write on it every day.
Okay.
And we have 228 people who watch it, who look at it regularly.
Social media?
Social media, yeah. Those are two ways that we try to keep in touch with the community.
Okay.
And then we also obviously do outreach with, for instance, the children's, several of the children's groups and the school and that kind of stuff. We go into them.
So schools?
Yeah.
Okay. Anybody else?
We have a weekly online
Newsletter online.
and we also run a lot of programs for children, for adults that are advertised in the local newspaper.
So you're advertising in the local newspaper, partnering with them and reaching the community?
I mean, more in terms of a calendar as opposed to
calendar,
buying
like
ads.
events or, okay. Any other ideas or what you're doing? Like,
You send out press releases every time you have a program or anything like that.
So press releases. Are any of you marching in your local parades? Maybe going to farmers markets?
Oh, yeah.
I'm just trying to think. Maybe going to your Rotary, your Kiwanis, talking to them on a periodic basis, maybe not monthly, but quarterly or even twice a year.
Remember, part of it is you've got very small communities for some of
Yeah,
us.
some of you don't
And we don't
have
have
those
those
yet.
types of things. It's not.
Yeah. Do you ever reach out to your local businesses and maybe do a scavenger hunt or invite them to set up a display? Like in a bakery, maybe you would set up some library books about baking or food or something. You know, if somebody's shopping there, they obviously geek sweets like I do. I have a sweet tooth. And have you ever partnered in that way of like reaching local businesses?
We don't have any local businesses.
Now you have to reach into a store.
Willie's.
Really?
Willie's it.
When the
Yeah.
Rotary does its annual community marketing fair, or book show, as they call it, we always have a table there.
So So tables. Yeah, and I do want to say this campaign works with the smallest of the small. I don't know if you all remember, LJ's Library of the Year last year was Lost Creek, Virginia, with Mary Beth Stenger, and she had 496 people. She told me, I think I have a gas station and maybe a restaurant, if you call it that. I don't have storefronts either, but she did some really unique things to promote even her program. She does a Latchkey Kids program after school and has a lot of kids coming there, and so she put on some programs for them. And because of Geek the Library, she was able to help bring in more donations because people didn't realize that their community kids were being fed after school as their parents worked. And so she was able to raise awareness and show it's not just a program, we're helping the community. We're all helping to support the kids of our community that will be here tomorrow and in the future and maybe open some businesses. And she really told how their library is very different, being in a small community, but nonetheless vibrant to keeping the community kind of together and being the spoke of that community. So no matter how big or small, we've even had some library systems that have 25 systems like over big areas. And this is really scalable. So keep in mind that, you know, if it doesn't work for the next person, you can pick and choose and customize it so it fits for your area. I do want to kind of convince you to think out of the box today. I brought a box of Jiffy Muffin Mix, and I know a lot of people are like, muffins, library, what does this have to do with it? Well, I will offer you this free box of muffins and a t-shirt, and if I don't have enough, because some of our t-shirts were taken this morning, but I'll certainly send you one. When you think you can make the connection to my presentation about muffins. So just holler out muffins when you think you know what the connection is. But I do want to get you to think out of the box today that not everything is clean cut in communities and libraries. It's about building relationships and telling people who you are and raising awareness about what you have to offer and really impacting people's lives. It's not just about books and entertainment. It's about maybe teaching a person a foreign language so that when they go to Mexico on a mission trip with their local church, they can speak Spanish. Or somebody that wants to connect with their roots. It's not just, we have a free genealogy department, use our database. It's about telling a story. I connected with my roots. That person's not alive anymore, but I went to the library. I found out who my family is because I use their genealogy department, and that impacts me. It makes it different because I feel more connected to who I am, and it's telling a story. So just keep that in mind as we kind of go through, but yell muffins when you think you've made the connection.
So, for instance, thinking of that type of thing, when we have job seekers coming in and people filing for their unemployment and that kind of stuff, let people know that these are actually happening.
Yes.
Okay.
Tell a story about somebody that has come in, and maybe they didn't know how to use the computer. You might have computer classes. So it could be our staff sat down and helped John work on the computer. It's not really our job at the library, but we all know that we step above and beyond those borders. We helped John write a resume. Our staff took the time and did that, and we have a lot of great resources. Well, John found a job. And I can remember hearing a story in Savannah, Georgia during the pilot, that there was a man that came in, and he came in almost daily to the library. And finally somebody says, well, John, why are you here every day? What you doing? You know, can I help you with something? Well, I don't have a job. They sat him down and they helped him and they helped him and they helped him. And finally one day, John didn't come back for a little bit, and he had gotten a job. And so taking a story like that, put it on your website, put it on a flyer, and when you go to that farmer's market, or go, if you have a Kiwanis, or maybe you're just setting up at the local fair, you've got a little booth and a tablecloth, tell that story. Because people, if you say we have job resources, they don't always get that. But if you connect it to John and say, here's a picture of John. John came to our library, we helped him. That resonates with people. Another story, we have like internet. You know, if you're talking and saying, I have free internet, a smartphone user that's on the phone all the time or has a computer or two doesn't always get that because they don't know how hard it is to get up, go to the library, stand in line, try to get a computer, and maybe if you have limited time or like a 2-hour time slot, they don't realize what that is every day, and sometimes just the pressure it is for somebody to get in and use that free internet. But when you put a story to it, that Betty is a lady that came from the assisted care living, and one day, after checking out magazines and books, she got brave and said, I want to use the internet, show me how. And your staff connected her with Gmail. And the next week she came back and says, what's this Facebook thing I hear about? And you connected her with Facebook. Well, a couple months from now, she's coming in, getting off the bus, her world opens up because she's got grandchildren at the other end of Facebook. And her family is at the other end of that email. And that is an impactful story, because even if somebody uses a smartphone and doesn't come to the library because they have that free internet, when you say that's your mom or your sister or your cousin or your aunt or your teacher or the lady down the street, then they get it. Like, the library helps everybody, and the library helped that person. And it's not just about all the
something
open.
as simple as, for instance, in our case, and
Yeah.
Inspector Derby's case, and the same thing. We have a lot of summer people come in, and one of the things they're constantly coming and doing is to get their plane tickets
Yeah.
printed.
Yeah, you can print them. I talked to a girl yesterday in Florida, rural Florida, the Panhandle, and she said, I need to do this because I have ways that people can file for Social Security, and they're driving 70 miles away. They don't know I'm an extension of that. And I've got to tell our seniors and save them the gas money and the hassle of getting up early in the morning and thinking about driving on the roads. I can tell them we can do that. Or people that have passports, like some libraries process the applications, or just all the different things. And when you start putting a face to it of somebody that used it, it's powerful, because then people get, well, I may not need that, I may not use it, but for that person, that changed their life. It's not just about the freeness anymore. It's about the convenience and changing them and opening up opportunities.
We have people that come to have us proctor their exams.
Yeah.
A lot, because they use the internet.
So in other words, you ought to have a questionnaire that everybody answers when or you point out to people and say, hey, how does the library help you?
Yes,
And
yeah.
have them fill it out, and then you can start putting those stories together.
Yeah.
Okay.
And I question too, like, a lot of people will say, is this a campaign for my patrons? It can speak to your patrons, because you're gonna wanna talk to them that are coming in, but this is really a campaign geared at U.S. public libraries to have the conversation with people not using the library, or maybe they're supporters, but they don't always know what to say. Like, if we ask somebody, what does the library do? Well, it's got books, it's got videos, I think I can do this. But generally, the whole population doesn't know. You have a database like tutor.com or Mango Language, or whatever it is, and this gives you the opportunity to go out. It gives you all the tools so that you can go to your community and tell them about what you have. And even more important, it's about the funding. I don't know if any of you have had millages in the last couple of years or in the future, or how you're operated really in Vermont, but we hear libraries every day say, we didn't hit that last millage. We had 40% yes and 60% no. I don't know what I could have done. And we'll say, what kind of education did you put out there? Did you do like a last minute thing, or was it a building? And this gives you the tools to have a foundation of, do you know how our public library is funded? Well, we're 75% local. It's coming through your real estate taxes. You're actually paying for it. It is free, but because you pay into it, we want to hear your voice, what we can do for you, or what we need to do, so that you all feel like you're a member or have buy-in to our community, because we're here to support you no matter what you geek. And a lot of libraries say, wow, we've touched on a lot of different people that we didn't have before. Like, for instance, if you take one of these bags out, and we'll send all this to you free. We were talking about this morning, that you can stuff your library material in your newsletter that you may send out twice a year. You might want to do like a printed copy, stick it in. You might have children's programs, summer reading coming up, and a lot of kids that already use the library, their families know when that summer reading is, because that's a vital resource to them for literacy, and also maybe entertainment or just a diversion. It could be a number of different reasons they come, but the people that aren't using the library that have children, they may not know. So if you go to a farmer's market and say, Mr. Farmer, I'm giving you these pre-stuffed bags. When you sell that zucchini, would you mind putting everything in the bag? A lot of times they love having the bags. A volunteer, or you could drive them out, drop them off at the farmer's market. You don't always have to stay. And that gets Geek the Library, your library, into the homes of people that may not be using the library. So it's simple things that you can do in tandem with what you're already doing, but talking to the greater community. In the background is a Geek the Library board. And typically when a library does Geek the Library, they'll take out a board. You can get a black poster board. A lot of people use the black butcher paper that you're already using on your bulletin boards. You can get cutouts. We've had them in the shapes of hearts and shamrocks and flags and books. It could be whatever season it is. The windows, tape them to the windows. People love to come and see a display. And you can see here, it's a little blurry maybe, the people on here geek recycling, photography, just different things. They even geek each other. A lot of teenagers do that.
How much trouble you have people, getting people to understand what, when you say, what do you geek, for instance?
Well, we have a definition that you can print out, and a lot of people will hang that in their library. The definition means to love, to promote, express interest in, and I'll show that slide in a second. What it means, and people say, oh, it's what's my passion? What do I love? Well, I can answer that. These geek boards have been instrumental in helping guide libraries. Not only is it taking a snapshot about what's important to your community. Many people here said recycling, and it shows that they're a very green community. Sometimes it'll show libraries maybe what they're missing in the connection with their people. In Iowa, we had a lot of people keeping cats and dogs and boxers and Dalmatians and poodles. And the library said, you know, we have cat fancy on the shelf, but we don't really do a lot to attract or to talk to our pet lovers, and there's a lot of them. So on a Saturday, they set up a display of care and keeping of your pet and had a groomer come in and a vet. And afterward, they had posters, and we have the templates available. They made posters of the people holding their pet and geeking their pet. Some of the people brought their pets with them. And I'll show you that in a minute. It's very cool to see a person, I geek my boxer, and they're looking affectionately at their cat. And that strikes, you know, a passionate note with a lot of people because they see themselves in it. And, you know, that's a value that the library can bring. We had somebody else in Alaska, and being in Atlanta where it's hot, I typically will think of Alaska with snow on the ground all year round. And I know that's not true, but Amy Craig up there in Alaska said, wow, we had so many people geeking organic gardening. We were missing it, and we didn't even think about it. So she called the Garden Council and had people come in, and she said it was standing room only. We advertised it in the newspaper and told them about the programs, and it was something new, and it got people in. And they saw us as a value, that they weren't there to check out books or a movie, they were there to learn more about organic gardening. And it's a partnership too that you could have maybe with a local garden shop or a little farmer's market, or you know, whatever it is that you're kind of promoting. So we use the geek board a lot, and a lot of libraries will take a frame and frame it later because they want to look back on that fondly of, wow, this is our community. We even have one that we sent to the Gates Foundation that they have in one of their hallways that we did during the pilot. Any questions so far? I think it's hard to get your head around, but as you go through this, I think it'll click when you see the photos of what everybody's doing and how they're promoting the library. This is the definition. As I said, it means to love, express interest in, possess a large amount of knowledge, and or to promote. And we changed this from a noun to a verb. And when we did this at first, some people, and I had a language teacher, she's a director, a former language teacher come up and say, you know, I wouldn't have liked it, but after I sat and listened to this, it made more sense. And it really kind of provoked thought. So she said, I think I'd geek it. Anyway, it starts with the core message that no matter, everybody has something they geek, something they're passionate about, and no matter what that is, the public library can support you. So it really starts a dialogue, asking from staff to staff, what do you geek? Or from staff to patron, what's important to you? And it starts that conversation so you can talk more about the library and what you have. And it takes it out to the community so that you can talk person to maybe non-user or to somebody that doesn't come in as often. I know a lot of libraries will capture this, they'll print it out, and they'll put it in an acrylic holder and take it out to an event, or if they have a booth set up somewhere on the town square, or they're connecting library card sign-ups during the month of September, and people will get that. And then that gives them the opportunity to say, you know, as they're signing the geek board, oh, you geek so-and-so, well, we have that author. Have you ever read so-and-so that writes mysteries? You should try that. And it starts the conversation. so that you can build those kind of relationships that are lasting and, really get it out there. The campaign is offered in 3 phases, and we typically recommend try to do it for 6 months or so, because it takes some staying power. Like if you go to a farmer's market, you might work with your school during that period. You might consider doing a geek week. Some people just did it during National Awareness Week, but it could be in September during library card sign up. It could be in tandem with your summer reading, something you're already doing. Maybe turn some of the kids into geeks and do the posters with them as a fun activity or with the parents. But it's just kind of getting it out there. The first phase is create awareness. It's usually done in the library just to start the ball rolling. And a lot of times staff members will get their pictures on a poster. As I said, we have 4 poster templates, and they're available in InDesign, Photoshop, Illustrator, and Publisher. They're free, so you can just open them up. A lot of people use this black table skirt, and we send them out so that you can use them in the banners free. They'll throw these over the stacks with the Geek the Library turned around, and if you just take a digital photo of somebody standing there smiling, you can put that onto a poster and then type in what they geek. And at first people are like, oh, why would I want a poster? But you're gonna see in a minute how that kind of blossoms in the community and where it grows legs. The second bit of it is generate engagement, and this lets you get out into your community. There's no right or wrong. I think a lot of people take this to the schools. Many of you already have a school relationship, but you may want to go to the school and say, we're already talking about summer reading, we do some things, but how about doing the library promotion in your classrooms, getting the kids together, talking about what they geek, put it into share and tell, like a show and tell. It will help kids raise their confidence in being able to stand up and speak for 5 minutes. It'll convey what their passions are. I know a lot of high school students or middle school students, when they come back to school, the teachers will do mixers because they want the kids to get to know each other for hobbies and what's important to them. In the older grades, a lot of times with the school, they might have an essay contest, write about what you're passionate about, what you geek. And then maybe they'll have the Chamber of Commerce or a local business owner or the gas station owner come in and judge it. And then maybe a local business or somebody will put up a $5 or $10 win, like a card or a gift card. And it's a really great opportunity to reach out to your local newspaper and talk about the library, that you're working with the school and you've done this essay contest. And little by little, you'll have more media impact, you'll have more people talking about it. A lot of kids and students are, yeah, I geek so-and-so, and they have fun with it. But it's a deeper message. It's not just about fun, it's about funding and making sure people know who the library is and that you need their support. The encourage action phase comes at the end. And when I talk to a lot of libraries that have finished their campaigns, they'll say, I guess during the campaign I never realized how important it was to talk about funding. But in hindsight, because we have a millage coming up in 2017, I should have used this more to lay more foundation. Well, we give all the tools to talk about pie charts. It might be how much money is coming in from the county commissioners or the local city council, or it could be from your school board, depending on how you're funded. A lot of libraries will use the tools, the pie charts, and maybe put up something on the wall, or they'll carry it on a trifold board to those job fairs or to the different school fairs where the parents are that don't necessarily use the library. And a lot of people that complain and say, why can't I have this book or this author? It opens their eyes that this is the money coming in from our community. The state may fund a little bit, or there may be outside sources, or many people think you're funded by fines, that you're shaking your head, that yes, you got a lot of money. And sometimes libraries will show their output, where the money goes. And that educates the community, because then in phase 3, when you've gotten everybody listening and talking about Geek in the Library, it's a good opportunity to do a fundraiser, or to maybe sell some t-shirts, or to do an Adopt a Magazine campaign. It's not necessarily about short-term gifts, but it's more about long-term giving and support of keeping the libraries vital. But a lot of libraries will do that in phase 3 while people are kind of tuned in. Question?
So in a library like ours, because we're in a kind of a unique environment, because the town gives us $20,000 a year, everything else is raised from donations. And it's raised from donations from both summer and winter people, primarily summer people. And for instance, you wouldn't necessarily want to put a pie chart showing where the money is coming from, because you don't want people to look at how much of it is donations.
Yeah.
As where it's going out and what part of our budget is being used for what thing. For instance, only $10,000 is used for the book budget and everything else is being used for that type of thing. That would be the way to do it then?
I think so, you could put a spin on it. And that's what's great about this, that there's no one right or wrong way, because every community is different. There's some communities that when they get to phase 3, they don't really want to talk about funding and go very deep, because they feel like it would be an insult to maybe their county funders or city council, because they know the budgets are being stretched. And they know that they just won that millage last year and they just got something new. But top lining it, you can still say, do you know how your library's funded? I challenge each one of you, go back and ask your staff. Have them write it down and slip you the paper, because I don't think you want them to be embarrassed if they don't know how. And it's amazing to me that a lot of staff does not know how they're funded. So if the staff doesn't know, the people out in the community may not know. In fact, we did a survey back in 2007 and 8, and it's where our From Awareness to Funding report came from. It was kind of a perception. But we found that 90% of Americans do not know how their public library is funded. They think the government is behind it or the states give them a lot of money. And it's an eye-opener when you start talking about, well, I know you want that book or that author or this, but let me tell you, we do rely on your support and your feedback. And, it's having that conversation so that it sets everybody straight. We found, too, that 70%, that's 70, of your elected and your appointed officials will support you, but they also sometimes have that idea that you're amply funded. I see some eye roll over here. So I mean, that, and it may not be typical in your market. Your numbers may be very different. But it's an eye-opener when you see those statistics. We found, too, that if a librarian is out in the community, and when I say librarian, it could be anybody in the library or the staff, people have a more fond look at the library, that they see you as approachable, relational, and they're more apt to vote for the library where people are active in the community than if you're just closed off and people are coming to you. So that's something to keep in mind.
Yeah, it's kind of what you're saying, Judy. I mean, dollars are dollars. What does it translate to?
Yeah.
So translating it into individuals, to community members, to services, to what makes an impact is important.
I mean, I guess I challenge everybody, do
Yeah.
something, even if you raise the bar a little. And this campaign, you can do as little as you want or as much as you want. I'll talk in a minute about the accountability, and we only have 4 simple requirements. So it's not like you're filling out reports or saying, oh, I should have done that, or they're going to grade me, because we don't. We know that you guys know what's best. And we have some libraries that they'll get the box of materials and they'll say, I don't think I can do much, but after they do one thing and they go to the fair and somebody sees them and says, what's a library doing at the fair? And they get 2 sides of the geek board filled up and realize they should have brought another board. That's when they say, you know what, maybe we should have gone and done more, or we can do more. We just have to make the time. It's kind of an investment on your time. But I'll talk in a minute about some ideas for volunteers too, if you're short-staffed, because we know that's pretty common. Yeah, question?
I was going to ask about the funding, what town are you?
Say that again?
What town are you from?
Reedsboro.
Okay. And you say you're evidently about the same as we are. You're about 20,000 from the town?
Right.
Well, what we do is every year we have in the town report our
Well, we
whole
have that.
budget.
Oh, yeah, we
So
have that too.
anybody
Yeah.
who cares to know, they can see exactly where we're funded and how much was donations and everything else. We don't break it down by summer and winter people and all. I think we get our bigger contributions from the summer people, but
Yeah.
I mean, anybody who reads the town report sees everything about our funding. And they also know, because we stand up in the town meeting and say, we want you to give us this.
Yeah.
And I give them a short lecture this time. Ours sailed through, and then they argued for half an hour about $115 rope for the fire department. But that was cool, They gave us our 20,000. And then I said at the end, okay, thank you for the money. You've given us the money. Now we want your time. We want you to come volunteer. And now you've paid for it. Will you come down and use it?
Yeah.
That was your lecture. But
What town are you, library?
Roxbury.
Roxbury, okay.
we have about 700 people in the town.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah.
And, honestly, I was telling Michael that when we started this, we were thinking about the bigger systems using this because they have the marketing capabilities, they have the marketing dollars, and shame on us, we found it's almost reversed because the bigger libraries, not to say that big libraries don't use this, but they have those long-term strategic plans in place and the marketing people, but it's been really good for the small rural libraries because you can talk a little bit of dollars, or you can go out and say we need more, or you can work with your parks and recreations people, and you can have that one-on-one dialogue to your community because a lot of times it's a smaller community. And a lot of times they'll see you at that community festival, and it'll be the talk because they didn't expect to see you there, or they'll say, did you see the little boy with the worm, you know, I eat worms, what was all that about? So it does get people talking. And you know, it does work well in the big cities. We've had library groups that have 25 people or 25 branches in their system. It just takes a little more time to get out because you have multiple communities and overflow and card users. But I think in a small community, it's great that you can have that conversation or post your numbers right out in the newspaper or the report. So anyway, any other questions before I move on? Well, why Geek the Library works? A lot of people say, well, why should I do this? Well, it takes your library into the community. And if you haven't had the opportunity to go, or maybe you're doing something already, we give you all the tools. Everything up here is free. We give you the stickers and the bookmarks and the bags and the bumper stickers, postcards. If you want to write your donors a thank you note, you've got some postcards. And I'll show you in a minute some of the unique things that libraries have done with them. But we give you all the tools so that wherever you're going, you can just have a bigger, broader conversation because you've got things. And you know, a lot of people, I hate to say it, they like goodies. They like to look and they want to know what's free, just like I do. But when you go out and start raising awareness, you change perception. The people will say, this library's cool and hip. You know, what are they doing here? I didn't expect to see them there. And they stop dead in their tracks a lot of times. And when I show you what you can do with the faces of the people, then people start standing up and saying, this is my library. I want to get on that bandwagon. I want to be a part of that. Show me how. And once you take your library out into the community, you get a lot more people that know more what you do, and they're more willing to support you, especially when it counts if you're at the polls. Like I said before, from awareness to funding, the campaign background, we did this survey way back in 2007 or 8, and we wanted to check with people and find out what they were thinking about the public library, because we noticed so many ads or like stories were coming out in the newspapers saying libraries are closing, libraries are cutting hours. There were even questions, is the library relevant? Well, heck yeah, but a lot of people think Google wins. And so we really wanted to change that perception, but we needed to know first what people were thinking. And we found that yes, we probably could, with the right messaging and the right engagement, we probably could turn some heads and get people talking about libraries again. So that's kind of why we developed the campaign. But we knew it had to have something that had a hook to it that was kind of edgy, maybe kind of humorous, because people remember that. We didn't want to just give brochures and say, here, read about the library. Because a lot of times if you say money or funding, the hands go out, no. You know, no, I don't want to hear about it. But if you include them in that conversation, people are opening up and they'll say, this is cool. Yeah, I get this now that this is my library. And I see the transformation and the potential that can happen. So from that, we did a campaign pilot. We did it in Savannah, Georgia, and Des Moines, Iowa. I was part of Savannah, Georgia. We had about 40 libraries in every group. We tested in a metropolis area and a rural area across different ethnicities, diversities, household incomes, young and old, and we got great feedback. We found that not only did it raise awareness, but it changed a lot of attitudes just in the 9 months or the 5 months that we tracked it. We actually ran it for 9 months, but we tracked it for 5 because we wanted to get the feedback. And we found it drove behavior, that after the campaign, about 59 to 62%, depending on which market, had seen the campaign and been exposed to it. And 2/3 of those people either talked about it to their friends, their family, wrote a letter to the editor, raised their hand, checked in and said, how do I become a friends group, or how do I make a donation, or what can I do to help? It really raised the impact. This report is available online, and I can send the live, or Christine and Michael any of these links so that you can get into them, or I can even follow up if you want to give me your business cards later. But great reads, because it's actual stories from the people that did this first, and the results are amazing. Where we are now, we're in 48 states, 1,650 plus locations. I think as of last week, it's about 1,675. The map's a little old. Vermont up there, I think it said 9, but I think we have a little more than that. We're not in Wyoming yet, or Hawaii. I would love to travel to Hawaii, so if you know of any folks, really, but if you know of any library folks, colleagues, friends, neighbor, people that know people, it would be great to put this out there to them. We have not done a lot of self-promotion, so it could be that a lot of Hawaii folks, and I know they run their state library a little differently, it could be that they've never even heard of this. I know that some of you may not have heard of this, and we're right here, and we've been here for 5 years, and we've had some libraries in Vermont. So we want to give everybody the chance to participate. A lot of the Vermont participants are in the Rutland area. Rutland ran this in 2011, and I can remember clear as bell, Paula Baker calling me and saying, "What is this Geek the Library?" And I flew up, I talked to her friends group and some of the board members, and I remember her saying, "I don't know if we can make an impact or not, but I'm going to tell you their story in a minute." But they had a couple of other small libraries in their area that said, we don't have a lot of resources, we can't go to the community, and we don't have a lot of opportunities, not too many storefronts or festivals or flea markets, but we'll put this in our library and we'll support it as we can. And they did just that. So these are the Vermont participants. Do you want to say anything about, like next steps, or do you want to save that for later?
We'll do that a little bit later, yeah, because talk about Paul, I think the Rutland campaign was really...
Yeah, it's kind of eye-opening what they did. Well, the latest results show that when we do library surveys, that this really continues to make a positive impact for many libraries, and it's changing their community perceptions. What's more, we hear a lot from staff members that people that just worked at libraries that weren't necessarily advocating, they would say, well, I work at the library. They're taking it a step further. When they wear their geek shirt, people come up to them and say, what is this Geek the Library? And they have an elevator speech. They have a mission statement, and they say, I'm a cataloger at the library, and let me tell you about some of the programs, and it starts the conversation. And people are going out making presentations to like the Rotary or the Lions Club, and it's really raised the marketing advocacy skills of the staff. We found too that 3 out of 4 libraries reported that now when they have events, people are hand raising and saying, I want to go there. We had a library recently that said, I only needed 2, but I got 12 volunteers and I had to turn 10 of them down because they wanted to leave and go work at the festival on a Saturday afternoon. So it does really help improve. Now this is Chelsea, Michigan, out of Chelsea, Michigan, and they did a neat campaign. They started putting a lot of faces on, and they were one of the first people that used props. It's hard to see, but in the end, Mendelssohn holding the violin, and we've got recycling and theater and a few other ones. There's muffins and healthcare. I can't really see what that other one is, but they really did a great job, and they hung these little signs outside the library. But they really, I'll tell you their story in a second.
Who's the employees?
Pardon? No, they were just different people. No, they actually worked with some local businesses. They were promoting local businesses. So lots of different people. The ID Theater, they hung at the local theater, little community theater, and they had somebody from there that was an actress. But lots of cool things. We know that when you engage, you can create stories. And a lot of these are people that they're from a different library, that they put up the posters on a wall, and I'll show you the bigger wall in a second. But a lot of these people have their own stories to tell. I geek mysteries. I geek country music. We don't know, maybe she goes and checks out DVDs or gets on the internet and watches YouTube concerts. We don't really know, but it provokes people to ask questions like, you geek skeet shooting? Tell me about that. And it just kind of brings everybody in talking about their passions. Not all of them are necessarily tied to the library, like I geek fast bikes. Can you imagine a guy riding through the library on the fast bike? But still, it allows everybody to tell their story and kind of tell their position statement, what's important to them. And we know that when you engage, that stories create advocates. And we've got the free postcards over here. And I'll tell you how a lot of people use them, actually. Many people will send these out to the media. They're just simple postcards. They'll send them out to the media. They might print out a sheet of like Avery stickers saying, we're having an open house, come to the library. Well, as a newspaper or a radio station or TV station, I look at that and what's this? What's the library doing? Well, they'll show up to your event. A lot of times they want to know what that is. But we have a lot of libraries that use these for thank you notes. They'll write to friends and say, thank you for staffing the book sale. We made $58. Thank you so much for doing that. They will write notes. Oh, yeah? Yeah, we've got more up here that you can take away. I'm sorry. But they will write thank you notes on them. A lot of times they write donor thank you notes. One library, after they had been geeking for 6 months in Pennsylvania, they were at their blueberry festival. Now, I don't know how many of you have like local farmer festivals. They were at their blueberry festival, and they said, now that we've been geeking, their geek boards were filled up. They took all of them and lined them up so people could see them, and they asked people to write a note of what they geek. So we've got Evan. My name is Evan. I geek going to the summer program, and I geek art. I think they had told me that Evan was like 8 or 9 years old. And other people, I geek this and that. Well, they took these letters one by one and sent them to the county commissioners after the campaign was over. Now, I know if many of you ever go to the county commissioner meeting or city council or whatever and ask for money, sometimes they'll say, who are these people? What do they do? And they can't identify them. They know how many people, 700, live in the community, but this puts faces to it, because then they know that Evan's out there and he wants to use the library and keep it vital. And Becky's out there and so. And it's powerful because they can see all the different people and what's important to them. And I recently took part in the MOOC, the massive online open course that was in advocacy. It's called, what was it? Library Advocacy Unshushed. It was a global MOOC. And they talked about in there that when people, especially like your elected and appointed officials, get form letters or petitions, a lot of times they don't look at them because they're just so canned. But they said if you write and take time to write to somebody in your ward or somewhere where you live, people read that because they want to know what's happening to their local public. And so this to me is powerful that they were able to do this.
So one way of using these very effectively, it sounds like, would be to have them on the checkout desk. Have people fill that out, why they geek the library or what they geek and why they use the library for whatever they geek.
Yeah, to send them on.
And then just ask them to bring them, just to leave them with us.
You put them on your Facebook page and later, then.
That's exactly what I was thinking, yeah.
Be great.
Yeah, but people use them, thank you notes, at holiday time. They'll have open houses and they'll say come in. Or if they see somebody signing a geek board, you know, a friend, like, oh, that's Becky over there signing that. They'll write down, she's signing cats. And if you have a program or something, or if you know what people are checking out, you can kind of pattern things, or, you know, you could send something or just invite them to like a certain kind of program.
I probably should have asked this 45 minutes ago, but I'm just having an awful lot of trouble using the word geek as a verb. It's awkward. I think of a geek as being kind of a nerdy person.
I know, that would be me.
No, I'm a nerdy person too, but
Well, I'll tell you.
I just don't see. I geek the library. I geek worm. If somebody said to me, "I geek worms," I would have no idea what they meant.
Yeah, I think it's just something that's organic. You've got to put that definition up, and it's kind of like any new word that comes out there. Like I'm trying to think, texting. We didn't know what texting was 10 years ago. You know, like people start talking about it, and I think once it becomes part of like the vernacular or like your area, then people get that. But it really does help to put up that definition. And if you imagine your
definition.
The definition was back here. To love, promote, express interest in. And a lot of libraries, they'll print this poster out, or they'll put it in their newsletter, they'll put it on their social media. You could hang just like a picture of it in the library. And once people say, it means to love or my passion, I get that. Well, we have a lot of libraries that said, I don't like the word geek. I will be honest, it's usually maybe an older population. Some younger people feel that way, or people that are really into grammatics, they'll say, I don't know about that. But I'll tell you what, I've had a lot of libraries in hindsight say, I still don't like the word geek, or I didn't like it, but wow, it got us attention, and that's what it was meant to do. That I personally don't have to like it or get it, because I'll tell you, at first, I didn't get the connection either. That I thought it was smart because it was a play on this geek, but the more and more I see people do stuff with this program, I think the more brilliant it gets. That I cannot believe that somebody came up with something that easy, that we're all known kind of as library geeks, and some technological people now are geeks, but it's kind of in trend to be geeky or to geek something. And it took me a while to get that, but now I see the impact, and so for me, I think it's brilliant.
Do they use this anywhere outside Vermont?
Yes, I'm going to show you that in a minute. You're segueing right into everything perfectly.
But if it was a word we all knew,
Yeah,
I love worms.
yeah.
They walk right by it.
Yeah, but I mean,
I
this
mean,
way people are
because
out and they're
it's a
like,
funny word.
I geek worms. Well, is
You
that
might
good or bad?
shock some people to say,
Well, I can see it's a
I
really
don't
Bill
get it.
Bates word, I mean, you know.
Yeah, and you know, he
No
signed
press
off
is
on this
bad
too.
press.
Yeah,
Well, yeah.
yeah. But I mean, people stop and they look at this little kid, and we have a couple other banner designs that we put in the area for like demographics and different reach purposes. But we look at that little kid and say, yeah, he probably really does have a worm in there. And this is really what this young man geeks is, worms. And it's kind of hard to get that. But I just love looking at pictures because sometimes I'm throwing it back when I see what people geek. But we know that after you have stories creating advocates, the advocates that are out there are the ones that start impacting change. And we had in one state, I'm thinking it's Connecticut, was my colleague who worked with this particular library, but they had a senator, Senator Diane Allen, called and said, what is this Geek the Library thing? I don't get it. And they said, well, come down to the library and see. So she came down. She signed up here, I geek physics and philosophy. She spent a morning or so in the library. She could see the people coming in and waiting on the line and checking out, and she got it. And so now she talks up the library and says, wow, I didn't realize how busy it was and just how much stuff goes on in a day. So it's really big that when you start impacting people, they can help create change. And that's really what you want to do. You don't want just your staff, you want your board, your friends, your trustees, Joe business owner down the street, the gas station guy. You want everybody talking about the library. Maybe not all the time, but to be able to talk it up and tell what it does for your community. And you know, I showed you that one picture earlier. This is the bigger picture. It's on an outside wall of a library. They were displaying it inside, and they said, why keep this inside so the patrons can see it? Let's put like a plexiglass cover over it and put it out by the stoplight. So when people pull up, they're seeing all these people, and they have to get out of the car and say, what is that? Because it attracts attention. And you know, they did just that. That you can see kids doing cartwheels and people holding things up, and it really does attract attention, and it makes you talk about it. As I said before, it's flexible, customizable, it's free, and it works with any budget. Even if you don't have a budget, I think maybe 90% of our people don't have budgets. But what you get with this, printed materials, we're going to have banners and table skirts positioned around the state. We've been giving them virtually to every library, but we're starting to run low because we're kind of getting near the end of our grant and don't know how many more to buy. So if you're thinking about doing this, get on quickly because you can get these. The printed materials you will get. We have enough warehouse. Those come, and I'll show you a picture in a second. T-shirts. Who doesn't need T-shirts? Every library gets 8 T-shirts. So, you know, it's something you could do T-shirt day, you can give them away, you can wear them to events, and people will stop you on the street and say, what is this? You know, what is this geek? You can even customize them if you have a friends group that can pay for a few or somebody that wants to donate them. You can put your URL. You could say, I geek the, what's the name of this library? I geek
The Brown Public.
The Brown Public
the
Library.
Brown Public Library. Or a consumer could say, I want to geek cats. How do I order a shirt? We have a lot of friends that will front the money and then they'll take orders. A lot of times the t-shirts may only cost $6 to $8 at your local vendor, but you can mark them up to 12 or 15 and funnel that money back into the library campaign. So, I mean, that works well. We also have communication. We send out emails every week or so talking about things you can do, like simple ideas. You know, just like the farmer's market idea provoked somebody to think about the Girl Scouts, that during Girl Scout cookie season, they took pre-stuffed bags to the strip mall where the Girl Scouts were. Well, who doesn't buy 3 or 4 boxes of Thin Mints? I do. And they put the Thin Mints in the bag and sent them into the homes of the people buying Girl Scout cookies. And you can't tell me that all those are library users. So it really reaches a lot of different people. And it's just a simple idea, but we help try to connect communication and share best practices. We offer one-on-one support. Everybody gets a field manager. It would be me. And I can work with your staff. They can call me day or night. We do a planning webinar that I can walk you through. You just sign on at your convenience. We have them happening all the time. We even have a recorded one. If you want to listen to it at 2 a.m., you can. But it kind of tells you how to do the campaign, and it goes kind of deeper into the how to, what to, maybe some of the trademark guidelines or geek guidelines of what people can geek. We do training for your staff. So if you want us to help facilitate like a deeper webinar, we can do that. Sometimes we do swap meets, like we'll get 5 or 6 libraries together that are in a county that want to do this together, and we'll facilitate that. We Geek social media. We have 26,000 followers on our Geek the Library social media page. I was telling the group this morning that when we said we wanted to open up Geek the Library social media, our attorneys for Geek the Library said, "What? Boy, that's opening up a big can of worms." But we said, no, we want to talk to people. Well, we were amazed when we got to the first 1,000, and I can remember all of those milestones. And Sunday, middle of the afternoon, we hit 26,000, and our geek girl, the other geek girl, sent us all a note saying, "We hit 26,000, ha ha ha," and it was a big thing. But if you're following us on Geek or Facebook, you can turn right around and retweet that, or retweet that, or share it. And so you can use all the messaging. It's really impacted a lot of people. Our social media too, we have a 3-page document on the CMC, the Campaign Management Center. Gives you all these different things you can write. 1/3 of them are Geek the Library. The 2/3 of them are about the value of your public library. It has nothing to do with geek, but it's advocacy in the form of asking questions and engaging with people.
Yeah, a lot of the material that the Geek campaign has on their webpage, I've used, and we put it on the Department of Libraries webpage under advocacy.
Yeah.
It's great stuff. I mean, the material is really excellent.
Yeah, and if you are near a school that wants to do this, you can share with them either the materials that come to you or the CMC code, because they'll have access to doing posters as well. We have a lot of school children that love to have their posters, or faculty. There will be big bulletin boards, and I have a picture in here that shows how all the administrators are geeking, and the little hands cutouts talk about what the kids are geeking. And it's just so cool because it gets everybody talking. We have something called 5 Simple Ways webinars. They're 30 minutes, and they're like the last Tuesday of every month. We did one yesterday, and it was how to find volunteers when you're working on a thin staff. And she gave the best ideas. I know that everybody's going to go in and tap into that, because it was simple stuff, how to engage your volunteers and find your volunteers, because a lot of people don't have them. They want to find them first. But she gave a lot of great things on how to do that, and simple ideas. It's nothing that took a lot of time, because we know that they're volunteering and they don't have a lot of time. So she put together some great ideas. But we archive those. You can tap into them at any time. A lot of libraries do lunch and learns for 30 minutes or less, and they'll get on and we just do an introduction. We give 5 simple ways to do a certain subject, whether it's social media or building a geek board or working with your local businesses, and a lot of people love that. And I can say our team, we're part of Community Relations OCLC, so we're partnering with the folks that do Web Junction, and they do like high-level webinars, so it's really helped us as well. We also fix you up with other libraries. If you're having a problem, or you have an idea, or you just want to say, I'm thinking about doing this, but I don't know how to do it, and we'll say, so-and-so library out there in Texas did it, we'll hook you up with them. And a lot of geek libraries are happy to share their best practices. And it's something we do all the time. I had 3 different calls last week hooking people up with things that they wanted to know how to, and they were able to get the right information. But there's a lot of campaign support. This is what's in the kits. You can see the listing here on the top left. The first kit that we send you, you'll have 8 t-shirts. You get a roll of 1,000 stickers. And I'm telling you, you've got summer reading coming up. Who could not use these? If you have movie nights, we've had libraries that pop popcorn and they'll put it in the little tiny brown sandwich bags, and they'll put a sticker on it. and say we geek free popcorn, people love getting that little bag of popcorn. It feels like they're at the movies and they're at the library. But we give you 1,000 of these. If you're at a festival, you can cut them up and hand them to people, and it's neat to see all the stickers. Just a lot of different things you can do. If you're mailing, like if you do appeal letters or something that goes in an envelope, you can put this on the outside because people are like, what is it? You know, they'll open it up. If you're a larger library or have budgets, we even have the templates for all the stuff where you can put in your URL or your logos. Some people actually customize their own temporary tattoos or stickers like this. But you're gonna get posters, postcards, handouts, bumper stickers. We have a lot of different posters. I'll show you just an example.
How much does it take to put a picture on a poster of your home? I mean,
I don't really know. I know a lot of libraries, especially of your size, will say, we cannot possibly print this out. I would say, put it on a digital photo frame. If you have public computers, use it as a screensaver so that you're seeing your people's faces. You can take a digital photo frame to your Rotary, to your event, local events. You could even put it in a local coffee shop and let it run there for a week and switch it out of businesses because people will see that and say, what is that? You can put it on Flickr. We have a Flickr account, flickr.com, and it's just Geek the Library is the name. A lot of people put them out there and they download their own. You can email it to people, like especially if they're councilmen or something, and they'll put it on social media so it gets out. But you don't have to print them. Some libraries will charge 50 cents, maybe $1 to offset the cost. If you have a local printer, you might even say, would you do a trade out? I will put a sign up if you print it that says We Geek Johnson's Printing. Some people even have like the showcases in their front area. So you might want to highlight that printer as a Geek of the Week, a business Geek of the Week, and put all their stuff in it. Show that they print kids' t-shirts for schools and trophies and highlight them in exchange for getting these free. We have a lot of libraries that simply, just for making the ask, will get it. But you can see, good quality posters.
Can we get samples of all of these pictures? I mean, can we get them digitally so we can actually use them in our social media?
You can? You sure can. They're all on the
Very
CMC.
attractive people.
Yeah, but here, I'll leave a couple. And I want you guys to take all this stuff home, but I'm just kind of letting you see it now so that you have a feeling of what it looks like. And then once you run out of all these materials, we'll send you 2 more boxes. You don't get the stickers or the t-shirts a second time, but you're getting a couple hundred more bags and posters if you want them, and bookmarks. I mean, everybody loves bookmarks, I think. The bags, bumper stickers. We even have some people, if you have a local radio station, they'll do a bumper sticker contest and spot the bumper sticker and win a t-shirt or whatever. But we send you all this stuff so that you have the right tools to take out. And I say it's yours for the taking. Like, do something with it. I already discussed that we have the targeted communications. Because we have so many libraries, we actually have a little computer system that if you were to start and launch on May 1st, automatically it's going to ping me on June 1st and say, write such and such a library, the Brown Library, and I will send you a note saying, I hope it's going well. A lot of times I'll take notes if you had a parade for a launch and put something personal in. And it is kind of a canned letter, but it gives you a whole list of what you could do now that you're a month into your campaign and what you can do to kind of reinvigorate your staff or your friends. And we do that at the 3, the 6, the 9 month, because we want to make sure that you're hearing from us, but that you feel confident that somebody's walking through the campaign with you. And you can do is, like I said, you can call me all the time. There's some libraries that they need a little more support because they haven't done marketing before or they haven't done these kind of outreach activities. And then there's some that I don't hear from, they just go. And then they'll write me and say, hey, I'm finished. So either way is fine, but I told you about the live and recorded webinars. We also have informational webinars if you have a friends group or board that wants to kind of hear this, and if you need to redigest it or listen to more, I can send you those links. We have the geekthelibrary.org website, and this is printed on all the bags, the t-shirts, the materials. This is the consumer site, and it's got up there an area where people can write in and tell what they geek. On here it says Bill Geeks Beer, Alexandria Geeks Reading, and Sarah Geeks Mysteries, and they rotate. It's just people telling their stories. You can go on and download screensavers if you want to put them on your public computer to get started. We also have an email profile or an email thing that you could type in. Mine says I Geek Cats because I have 7 of them. But anybody that gets an email from me, there's a little thing in my signature line that's a black box with the red writing. It said I Geek Cats. And you can also download Facebook profile pages so that you don't have to create one for your business page. You can do it personally as well. There's links to our YouTube. There's 30-second geek videos. My favorite one is a little girl that geeks guinea pigs. It was shot in her Iowa library. And a lot of libraries pick that up. They put it on their website, so when people are on looking around, they can link and watch those videos as well. But it kind of ties into the Geek campaign. The second website is Get. It's kind of hard to see that red Get. But this is where you would go if you want information, or I could pass that sheet around. If if you want to receive a kit, and it's just a free info kit, it's going to have a thumb drive, it's like Geek My Library. It's got a stakeholders presentation on it, so that if you meet with your staff or whoever, if you want to get buy-in, or if you just want to say, FYI, we're running this, here's what it looks like, you've got a deck on there it's kind of like this, but pared down. And then you'll also get samples in the mail. That's if you just want to think about it. But you go to that interested button, or we can pass this around, the sign-in kind of sheet, it's up there. And I'll send you a free kit. And once you sign up, we have something, again, called the CMC that you can go into. And it's a campaign management center. It's got everything on it. It's laid out in sections, like what to do before you launch, kind of a checklist. What to do in phase 1, how to launch, where to launch, if you're doing any advertising, PR. We even have a press release. I heard somebody say we send out press releases. We have one that's pre-written. So you can drop in your director's name or contact name, and it'll say insert events here. So you could list the events that are coming up. Insert quote here if you want to say a quote about why you're doing it or what your goals are. So everything is easy. It's turnkey. You don't have to invent it. If you want to go into the CMC, the password is up here. It's just Vermont, and then it's Vermont123. And if you all sign up, you'll get your individual library or name passwords. Let me see if I can get in here real quick and just show you what you do.
But your campaign can be as simple as just getting some of it on Facebook.
Yep.
Getting your postcards out. It can be very simple. You don't have to get elaborate.
You do not have to get elaborate. And I'm going to show you in just a minute what Rutland did.
Yeah,
because then I
Rutland.
think, well, I'm not getting in here, but it is Vermont123. I may have not gotten on the internet. But I will show you exactly what Rutland did, because they were one of our first libraries. We had the best practices from the pilot group, but we had not published them. You'll laugh at this. One of our funny things was that during the pilot, everybody said, we need to customize. We want to put our own faces on posters. We need bookmarks. We said, you don't need bookmarks. We thought we didn't print it because libraries have bookmarks, but the feedback was we want bookmarks, so we did that. The other feedback was, this campaign is great with these 12 geeks, the vampires and all, but we want to see our own local mayor on it. We really want to speak to that mayor. We want to speak to our teachers, so we want those teachers on speaking to their students what they geek. And when we listened to them, that's when our world opened up, and the campaign instantly resonated with everybody, seeing their own faces. But everything, all those templates live up here. And when you sign in, you'll see the campaign phases on the left. The middle part will talk about what in the campaign you're talking about. Like this says, get your community talking. It gives you a checklist of how to do that. And then on the right side, the useful materials. There's a marketing plan template if you just want to jot down what you think you can do, whether it's, I'm going to include my social media, I'll include it in my newsletter, I'm going to do the report, the year-end report, the budget that goes out in the newspaper. I will also attend these 3 meetings and go to the school, and that may be your campaign. But I think if people write them down, it's a more robust campaign because you keep yourself accountable to hitting all those touch points. But we walk you through all that, and like I said, everything's up here. Planning, it's important to plan. I would say 6 months is a great time to do this campaign. You don't have to go that long. In fact, I think I have some case studies up here of Marshall District Library in Michigan. They're a small town, probably like this. They geeked for 3 months. They spent $150 total on their flyers, on booth space, on an ad. We have some libraries that don't spend a dime because they don't have a dime to spend or a penny. You can see here the little warm kid on the left, and that's our national ad. These other 3 posters were made by libraries, and they look pretty identical to ours because of the template. You can see the one on the end has a QR code, the little kid geeking knock knock jokes. I think he's cute. The girl geeks growing garlic. And then I love this one with the Great Dane geeking cats. I just think that's really neat. But you can see, you can have a pet, you can have a kid. We even have a photo release form. If you're taking pictures of minors, you don't need to mess with that unless you already have one in place. But some libraries don't. But we even provide that so you can put your own logo on it. You're welcome to use your logo, your URL, your QR code, a picture of your own library, or whatever you want to put at the bottom. Perfectly fine to customize it, especially if you have neighboring libraries, you want it to know where it came from. But you can see those look just like the regular campaign. I mean, there's really no difference when you look at how the local library has done it. But we really encourage you to try to do it 6 months or more, especially like in a small community, because the more times you are out there, frequency it's called, the more impact it makes. Like, I saw you at school. Wait a minute, I saw you at the farmer's market. Oh, you're in the newspaper now doing a Geek of the Week. Who's the next Geek of the Week? And it gets people talking. Because if you just do it a short time as like a promotion or a program, a short promotion, it doesn't have that same staying power. I'm going to talk about now how Rutland mobilized. And Rutland, as I said, was one of the first libraries. We had not yet done the CMC, the Campaign Management Center, so I didn't have a lot to offer to Paula Baker and her crew. But I did say it's really important if you can maybe localize it, because that was the key feedback from the campaign. And they went out and they found Big Lenny. Now, Big Lenny owns a hot dog stand. It's in a trailer that he pulls up at the edge of town every week. And Big Lenny says, you know, hot dogs are my livelihood, not necessarily my passion, but I love photography. Restoring old photos of my family, I always have a digital camera in my pocket. And they thought everybody knows Big Lenny. They've eaten a hot dog or two in their lifetime. Do you know Big Lenny? You're shaking your head. Well, so, and keep in mind, Big Lenny is wearing a turtleneck. He looks like a floating head in that picture on the screen. But Big Lenny decided he wanted to be their person. They approached him and said, would you be on a banner? Well, they printed a banner like this, a 4x10. They put it outside their library. And at the time, Paula says, I'm not sure about this campaign, but I want to try anything. I need to get people in. I need to get people talking about the library, seeing how relevant we are. I'm going to try this. I don't know if I can make much impact. Well, I'm telling you, we wanted to make impact too at the same time because we had just done the pilot. We were starting to kind of roll out nationally. We had to make it work with that next 44 libraries to get the next grant and this grant. So anyway, she got Big Lenny and put him out there. And a radio station called. What's Big Lenny? Isn't that Big Lenny? Big Lenny's all dressed up. What's he doing on the side of your library? Well, let me tell you, we're doing a campaign. What do you geek? And that started the ball rolling. Well, then in the newspaper, they got their recreation leader, Cindy Wright, standing in front of the recreation, holding her poster. They look like twins. She's holding her poster, and the newspaper did an article on not only the library, but the recreation center. It became a win-win for them, talking about the recreation center, partnering with the library, and all the things you can do in the community at your rec center. So this person became an advocate and started talking to the local businesses about, hey, have you seen the library campaign? And everybody's like, hey, Cindy, saw your picture in the paper. So it started the ball rolling. Well, then they got a call from the radio station, and they had like a little radio segment. The Voice of America or Vermont Public Radio called them and said, we'd like to do a segment on this Geek the Library thing. What is it? So they came out. About the same time, Paula and Ed Graves went to the local business expo. I think there were about 85 vendors there. The first time the library had gone, I believe. And they set up just a booth. They took out a table, skirt, and a banner. They got noticed. People said, what are you doing at the business expo? Well, we're a business. We offer copying and faxing. We help support the small businesses. We also help support the schools. And they became kind of a player in the community. Well, then after that, after the Voice of America or the Vermont Public Radio, wouldn't you know, we got a phone call from NPR. We would like to feature Geek the Library on All Things Considered. So I think back to that. We were rushing to get out there and talk, and we weren't, we were making impact. But this little town that said, we're not sure how much impact, they got us a segment on NPR, and they got noticed. you know, and so that geek word became something big. They also put out people because they couldn't print the posters at first. They put their posters up on their website and rotated like 20 a week. I think it had enough space for that. So people that started going to the website started looking for those Geeks of the Week. And they just, you know, everything kind of morphed from there. They also were on Facebook. Not every post here is Geek the Library, but they just did it regularly so that they could have impact. And, you know, if you're going to an event, if you're out at a business expo, why not carry a card that says, we're on Facebook, like us? Because even if they're not in the library every day, they might think, I might have something coming up like an author visit, or in that conversation of what do you geek mysteries? Well, we don't have that person here, but we've got this guy coming. Well, then people will say, well, maybe I should follow you so I don't miss something at the library. And they could measure that then. They could see where they had come from at the beginning to where they got to at the end. How many people had started following them. And even if they're not users every day, they're connected now to the library and they're getting that messaging. And that's an important way to start the conversation. But they did that. They also had a couple segments in the newspaper. I think this is actually on the radio station. That was the link to that. And then they did a press release and just calling out a couple things. It said Pittsburgh and Proctor have also joined the wave of catchphrases. So it included the local libraries around them. I would say if you're doing this kind of as a group or as an area, always include the libraries next door to you that are participating so it's equitable. Some other key phrases: we wanted to generate more interest in the city's library. Spread the word about America's greatest public treasures. It's important to bring awareness to the community about what we do at the library. So they had all this in their press release. And again, that press release was templated. They just dropped stuff in. So it made it easy for them. Any questions so far about Rutland?
Is your muffin?
Got it. I showed one before, but I owe you a t-shirt and a lovely box of muffins.
We use them when we're raising money, don't we?
Pardon?
Pass it out to all the voters with cookies.
Yeah. Well, we had a library recently launched. They did a breakfast. They had somebody help donate their orange juice and pastries, and they had like a drive-in breakfast. And they said it was a rainy day, but they still had 40 or 50 cars came by, and they handed them a little brown sack with their breakfast in it and a sticker, and the newspaper came out. They captured that. They put announcements out beforehand, and it was a great little thing that they didn't pay a lot for, but it got them noticed. And people went away talking about the library, but that's how they launched. Here's some other ways to localize. As you saw, Howdy Homes, and let me tell you the story about Howdy. Howdy's grandmother, 120 years ago, started the Chelsea Milling Company, AKA Jiffy Mix. And Howdy, it lives in Chelsea, and when this library got going, just like Lenny, because I had shared the story of Lenny, they said, who did we get? Well, they got Howdy. And Howdy, during the photo shoot, said, wait a minute, I would be incomplete if I didn't have a muffin. And so he called on his little red phone down to the bakery and got a muffin sent up to his office during the photo shoot. And then they put him on a postcard announcing their launch event. But that's kind of how Howdy got in. At first they thought maybe we'll be lucky if we get 50 people in our community to appear on posters. And they had the first photo shoot. They hired a professional. They were going to just give him a fee. He said, I'll do it for such and such. And it was kind of out of their budget, but they thought we really want to have good photography so we can get this going. This man, Burrell Strong, came and said, your library community is so passionate. I cannot believe how many people love the library, and I've decided not to take this fee. I'll do this for you for free. Well, Burrell started blogging every day. He became an advocate. He was just a user, but he became an advocate. He started talking at the library. He went on to Facebook every day, and if you go to Chelsea District Library's Facebook page out of Michigan, you'll see, going back, all the different geeks of the day, because they did it on Facebook. It was easy. You could do a Geek of the Week. Later on, they stopped counting at 450 posters. Later that year, Burrell, who had just been a library user occasionally, had become an advocate because he had talked to people, engaged with people, and he was named Citizen of the Year for his contribution to the library and for photographing events. So that's huge when you look at how a community grows and just how one person can make a difference. And if you get one or two advocates telling their friends, think about how that multiplies. Some pictures up here, I Geek Mice, that started with a billboard in Lansing, Michigan, the library, it's 13 locations. They have a little bit of a marketing budget. They always wanted to work with the zoo, the science center. So they asked them, would you partner with us? We'll pay for part of the billboard, but would you mind putting your zookeeper up there? He held his arm out, he's got an owl, he's geeking owls. Well, later on, everybody thought the owl was so cute, they wanted to put him on a poster. So they did a friend raiser, like of selling the poster $1 a piece. And then the zoo benefited later because they had a silent auction. And they had that poster, they framed it, put a feather in, and got a bit of money for it. I Geek Gold is a girl in Georgia who won a gold for marksmanship in our previous Olympics. We had a person on yesterday that did the 5 Simple Ways webinar. She shared this coffee idea, partnering with a local coffee shop, and they bought the little paper wraps that said, I Geek the Library, and it's got her logo on it. And I know that's a little more of a stretch. And then I don't know if any of you know Michigan State University, Sparty, he geeks green and white. Some things you can do that are easy: festivals, county fairs, health and job fairs, sporting events, 5Ks or parades, music festivals. If you have any like little town festivals, we've had a couple of groups that'll come in and they'll set up, they're kind of like garage bands, but they'll set up and entertain. They've worn Geek the Library shirts before. And that really got people talking because they're up on the stage playing.
So when you say doing the events, basically means just showing up at them with a Geek the
Showing up,
Library
you could
thing.
have,
Okay.
yeah, you can have a booth. Some of them are free. Sometimes if you just say I'm nonprofit, they'll give it to you free. Take the table skirt, the banner, all of this, have a geek board. And if you have people wearing t-shirts, you know, we hear from a lot of libraries, well, I set up a table before and I didn't get too many people. But this really like draws people in because you're interacting, you're asking them sign the geek board, you're asking them to do something, and you're asking them a question about themselves, and everybody loves to talk about
Yeah, and
themselves.
as you mentioned earlier, you're engaging your
Yes.
public.
So it really helps.
Yeah.
If you look in this picture, that geek board is filled up, and the one the girl is wearing is filled up. And a lot of people, it sometimes takes that little bit of momentum, but once they get what you're asking them to do, they'll draw
And
all
Jenny, you
of
gonna
it.
tell the story about the vampire, about the kids with the vampire, or the, I think it was a vampire, or maybe it was
Was
the,
it the zombie makeup?
the zombie. not
Oh
the
yeah,
vampire.
you know, a lot
I
of
like
people
that, yeah.
want to attract teens because they feel that, I don't want to say that teens are dying out, but when they get to a certain age, I have a 9 and 10-year-old, or are they 9? No, they're 10 and 11, excuse me. They've aged. I have a 10 and 11-year-old, and they love the library. We go to the library a lot, but when I talk now about checking out books, it's more, I can read online, I have the Kindle, but you can also go get your ebooks and download it and stuff. So we really want to speak to that younger crowd because they've kind of migrate away thinking that Google wins or electricity wins or whatever it is. And we've had some libraries that come forward and do like zombie makeup, and they'll do zombie makeup parties. And they'll do like a before, like I Geek Reading, and there's me. And then later they'll show the zombie makeup, I Geek Zombies, and they'll put it on a poster. And the kids love that. I was telling them this morning that in one area, I'm thinking it was Tennessee, there was a lady that kept saying, we need to improve our teen department. I cannot get teens in because it's so old-fashioned, we need to improve it. Well, the county commissioners, how many teens do you have coming in? Well, I told you we need to improve it in order to get the teens in because right now we only have 2. Well, so then you don't need a new teen room. We'll just have to suffer. And so it's kind of that circular thing. Well, with Geek the Library, she started saying to her 2 teens, get your friends in here. Let's do some fun things. And it multiplied. They got 4, they got 6 and 8, and then they got up to 20. And as a way to really go advocate and say this library is important, they all got together and the kids themselves, not the parents, the kids went to a county commissioner meeting asking for that money, saying, here we are, we're the teens, we use the library, we would like to upgrade and update, and they've been able to do that. And so the campaign really helped them to get the ball rolling, per se.
Is that sign just black paper, or is it the kind of
It's kind of
stuff
black foam core. Foam core is a little heavier than poster board, but you can use poster board. And a lot of people will do sandwich boards. In the pilots, I had one guy that said, I'll only do it if you bake me a so-and-so pie. And somebody at the library had to bake a cream pie, but he did it.
So you're using black foam core?
Pardon?
You're using
Black foam core. You can get it like at a Walmart or an office supply store. Lots
You
of
could
people do
paint it,
different
could you,
things.
with it? Stuff that you use chalk on.
Yeah, you can
To
use
paint
chalk.
it.
We have some libraries that if they have a blank wall, they'll get that chalk paint
Right.
and for 6 months dedicate that wall. And then they'll take a picture every Monday morning and then erase it and start again for the week. Walmart sold black pumpkins at Halloween. They're like fiberglassy. Some people bought those and wrote all over those. And they said they'll set those out every year as their decorations showing that geek work, which I thought was a neat idea. Customizing. This is East Baton Rouge Parish Library in Louisiana. That iGeek community is their mayor. They also shot just a little YouTube video and started playing it at events, and it got a lot of looks at it. WeGeek downloads, ebooks, audiobooks. They can put that in a bakery or a coffee shop or somewhere where people are sitting, even a doctor's office. I tell people it's great if you can take the bookmark or these brochures, and they come to you flat, but you're supposed to fold them. The beekeeping lady, who I love, goes in the inside. You can take these out to hair salons, your DMV, your car repair places, and put something out like this because it gets people when they're sitting there playing, if they have a smartphone, to look at it or just take it away maybe and look it up later because they're so compelled to say, what is this geek? They've geeked spooky fun at Halloween, and you can just see how they put their branding to it. That it's not really anything big, but they just added their logo and put it in colors and really made it their own. Some library events. You could do a Geek the Library week. It doesn't have to be during National Library Awareness Week. Library card sign-up months. Adult, children, and teens programming, summer reading. We had one group that did technology zoos, and Black Friday, when everybody's getting ready to shop and looking at where am I going to go to find something, they had a couple of vendors come in that sold like the Kindles and the Nooks and different things and computers. They had people come in and talk about what was going on sale and what the new features were. They said it was standing room only because they advertised it a few weeks. And then after the holidays, they had the same kind of people coming back, taking a course on how to use their new e-reader. So, just ingenious ways that it's not really a geek theme, but they put up their table skirt, they set up a display showing that they were doing this. And they did this around different areas. It wasn't just in the library, but it could be at the Walmarts, like going out for a couple hours, sitting in the electronics area if they'll let you, and saying, we're doing this at the library, so come and learn. Awareness in schools is big. Like I said, the bookmark contest or the essay writing. We had one band, one school that wanted to geek homecoming. They made the sign, I Geek Homecoming. And they sold the t-shirts to the band members at cost, like $6, $8. I geek my flute, I geek my trumpet, and they marched down the street like 100 strong for homecoming parade. And imagine, the community, the parents come out and watch that. That's impactful. Or the cheerleaders that go out on the field during the football game and they get the kids talking about the library and signing up. And this is just, them using templates out of school, the administrators and the little hand cutouts. So it could be a simple bulletin board, just like what you already use. Or you can hang those in City Hall. We have a lot of people that do that. We'll put up a bulletin board. Or even a showcase somewhere. And then social media, I already said that. Use it if you've got it. Or if you don't have social media, think about using it because it's a great metric to see what people are saying and how many you get. Advertising and PR. We have a lot of libraries that say, I cannot afford it. Just wanted to show you this. I know you don't have bulletin boards here, but that one says I geek food on a stick. It was outside the Iowa State Fair where they have 50-some kinds of food on the stick. And after that pilot year, people came back and said, where is that billboard? I wanted to see what they geek this year because it was so memorable. We have a lot of people too that do ads. The ads are available on the website so you can download them. And a lot of people say, I can't afford it, don't talk to me about it. In the bottom right, that's an ad. That's one of our celebrities, Brian Dennehy. We've got 3. Brian Dennehy, the late Lou Reed, who geeks art, and then Elvis Mitchell, who's got braids. I don't know if we have him here or not, but he's a movie critic. But Key West, they ran this, and that to me is an expensive area. But she said, we went out, we made the ask, we got 6 free ads, and that is a sample of one of them down there. And she said, just because we asked, they gave us 6 ads. I had a library last week in Cascade, Idaho, and this film company called me and said, we are going to donate, keyword donate, advertising to the library. They asked us if we could run pre-movie ads. So we need some artwork. I said, well, if you have community faces, it's going to work best, but I'll send you some of this art. I gave her my password to the CMC. They're putting together a 30 or a 60-second ad that will run before the movie show. And you know, I looked up the statistics. It says 75% of people have recall value. When they go to a movie, they remember those ads before, like the M&M or Sprite Please or whatever it is. They remember those. So that company is donating to the library because they made the ask. I could not believe it, but we've seen that, billboards and the newspaper ads. You can also link to the Geek videos, there's my favorite, or stage an open house, invite the media, the community. You can ask your local publications for free Geek of the Week, and start maybe with the editor or some of the newspaper staff, because then that builds the relationship. You'll have maybe some media folks that approach you because that builds the relationship. We have a lot of newspaper scripts, or radio scripts. We have 2 of them. And a lot of people will ask their local radio station, would you run this as a public service announcement, a PSA? And they do. You don't have to necessarily pay. Some people will pay a little fee, but you can customize them and make them for your community.
Yeah, you were talking about the radio. I mean, I can see some of the local radio stations, sometimes they do call in the morning.
Mm-hmm.
That would be a great spot, you know, ask people to call in and what do you geek?
What do you geek? Tell us about
Yeah.
what you do at the library.
Yeah.
We'll give you a free t-shirt, and it goes a long way.
Yeah.
We've had a lot of people do, we call them DJ drops, where you
Yeah.
drop in and go on the air. Some of my favorite community connections, the little girl, the Geek Goo, at the Science Center, another billboard example of partnering. I like the one in the middle. It's the girl at a frozen yogurt shop that had her poster made. It says, I geek froyo. But if you look closely, she's got the spoon stuck on her nose. And that's cute. And it was just because they asked that local business person, do you want to have your picture taken? Would you hang it in the window? And it leads back to people talking about and supporting the library. There's the band up there. The bottom picture is one of my favorites. It's about it's about the library being supported. And I know you asked me earlier, well, how will people use this geek terminology, or will they get it? Well, they're not geeking the library. Doolittle's is geeking their own award-winning ribs. We've had churches that geeked Jesus. We've had, like, the YMCA and Curves geeks fitness. So they start using that terminology. And we had this particular one, and a lot of libraries have since followed suit. Writing at the end of the campaign, we're going to close with a Geek the Library week because we want to do a celebration. Would you put up on your sandwich board something that you geek? And usually it's their own products. But you can see here, Wendy's come in for We Geek Frosties, $1.29, and they advertise their own products. But it's huge when you see 20, 30 businesses, if you have them, or you could do it another, I don't know, like have people just getting their posters made. But that was huge for a community to have that. And then finally, industry connections, working library to library. This lady in New York, she called me up and said, this campaign speaks to my soul. I've got to do it. So I went up on a Saturday morning. We staged a pep rally. She invited 20 other libraries, and we did kind of this, but she also had the media there because they were capturing her campaign. She had the school people there to get ideas, and then she got the 20 libraries signed up. They all said, we're doing this as a group. Well, when they finished, they thought, we got to go out with a bang. So they got the stadium at the Renegades. It's a farm team baseball team thing, and they put up posters all around the stadium. They sold tickets, and the Renegades let them have like a fundraiser and a profit raiser so that they were able to buy some t-shirts, shoot them out in the crowd. And during the 7th inning itch, Mary Lou went out and talked about libraries in their area, libraries in general, how important they are, and she had a captive audience at the ball field listening to her, and we thought that was big. Well, recently in Eastern Tennessee, they've done the same thing. They did a hockey league night in Eastern Tennessee, and they had maybe 5, 10 libraries, I don't know how many, but they've developed their own Facebook page to promote it, and they had all these people liking it, and local libraries liking the Facebook page and promoting it. The fact that libraries were working together and going to the hockey game to impact people there. And we thought that was cool. There's Howdy again, just in case you missed him the first time or two. Enrollment. This is how you can get signed up, geekthelibrary.org. You can go there for information, or if maybe you sign that paper we passed around, then I'll send out the information kit. After I leave here, I'm headed to Nashville, but I'll try to get that done this week. If you want to sign up, you go to get.geekthelibrary.org/agreement. And then what happens is it gives you like a little pop-up acknowledging that you've signed. Within 24 to 48 hours, our coordinator, Tina, will send out a welcome email. It'll have a password in it for your CMC. You can also use that Vermont password. Then you'll be contacted to come to a planning webinar. It's an hour or less. You can do that live with us, or you can do it via Memorex, as I call it. You can go on your own and listen to the recorded one. We will send you a pre-survey. There's 4 requirements. The first one is we ask that you take a survey, and it's just to kind of assess what your appetite is for growth and where you want to work. Like, it'll say, who do you want to reach out to, business, partnerships, and then it's questions like, I feel that the community understands us, like 20%, 30, 40. It's just kind of getting an assessment. And we use that aggregately to connect with the Gates Foundation and let them know how libraries are using the campaign, and also how we'll develop new things in the future, what your needs are. Secondly, we ask that you use your CMC code and activate that. Thirdly, we ask that you tell us when you start and stop the campaign, because that's really important. And what is my 4th one? I got myself out of order there. I'll think about that. Well, start and stop, use the CMC, take the planning webinar, and take the survey. Those are the 4. So that's simple. You don't have to do any other accountability. Did you have a question?
So we don't need to, because I'm thinking very much that we will do this, but we don't have to have the campaign planned before we do the enrollment.
No. You can enroll today. We have libraries right now. I talked to a lady yesterday. She's already enrolled. She's not kicking off till January of 2015.
Okay.
Right now, to use all the materials, we're wrapping up June of 2015 as far as field support or having the tools available the last day that you can order. We'll ask, because these are models and like they're not copyrighted, but they have like a talent fee attached to them. You can geek beyond that June 2015 date. It's just you would not have these materials available. We would ask that everybody stop using them, but you could geek till 2020 or 50 if you wanted. And then the field support, which is me, would be gone after that, because this is a grant and we have a time allocation.
But so if we enroll, then we can go ahead and sit and plan out the campaign with your help or with the
Yes.
help of CMC and so forth.
Yeah, you don't have to start right away. Like I said, we have libraries starting 6-8 months from now, but they've enrolled. I would say if you're thinking about enrolling, go ahead and do so, because we say we're stopping it on or before. I've never seen a before, because we've always gone to every grant, and like one grant said 200 people, we had 350 libraries. But I just want to say, with this kind of field asset stuff, we won't probably be ordering more banners or table skirts, and when we're out, and we pick up, we share from other libraries, because we have a lot of them out there, but it's just a matter of being able to get them. We'll leave some here in the state, too, so that they can be passed around. But that's pretty much it. There's not a lot of requirements. Like, we don't ask you to call us every week or tell us what you're doing. We do ask for approvals, like if you're doing something creative-wise, like maybe your first poster, if you're not sure if the template looks right, or if you go a little off template, we'll look to make sure the font's okay and the pictures. If you do any advertising, we do ask that we look at what's going to the masses, because it's important. We don't want you to print something and then say, uh-oh, spelled geek wrong, or something like that. You wouldn't do that, but just we want to make sure everything is good to protect you. And that's it. I do want to say, while you're thinking of questions, just because it's top on my mind, there's another opportunity that the community relations team at OCLC has, and the deadline is coming up May 15th. It's for Redbox and Out of the Box. They're the entertainment industry with all the movies, but they're also getting outside the box at libraries. And they're offering mini grants to up to 20 libraries in the US, public libraries, that want to do placemaking. So if you have a library with a big lawn, or you have like a little area, or you want to partner with your local parks and recreation, it doesn't have to be necessarily on the library premise, but if you want to apply for that grant, it's open through May 15th. Last year we piloted the Redbox program, much like we did Geek the Library. We did 5 communities. One of them did a movie night. I attended that. They had the big blow-up screen out in the lawn. We gave them money. They bought little bistro tables and had them kind of set up here and there. And they gave out stickers. They had little swimming pools with like the palm trees that were blow up, and they had little game stations for the kids, and they made it a community event. So that's kind of what I'm talking about. But I just wanted to throw that out there too, because we want to make sure libraries know about all the opportunities. What questions? I know that's a lot to take in. I did a lot of talking.
It's extremely helpful.
Yeah, and one of the things I guess I will mention a little bit now about, I don't know how many folks here have heard or know about Turning the Page or have heard about it or taken it. Nobody has taken it here. But Turning the Page was developed by, again, funding from the Gates Foundation with the Public Library Association. And we went, I don't know if folks remember this who were here back 6 years ago, we went to St. Louis and we went through a number of advocacy training sessions in St. Louis. And they talked about things like perception, networking, having goals and assessments. And from that St. Louis trip, where we went with public librarians and trustees, PLA, who developed the whole training process, said, well, we should make this into a webinar and make it available to public libraries across the country, which is what they've done. And we held our first webinar session back in October, November, and it's a 6-week course, and it talks about, what libraries, how libraries are perceived, what their perception means to their communities, how to build networks in your communities, how to plan goals, how to work with your community organizations and groups. And, all this, in a sense, is kind of works well with, I think, Geek the Library campaign, because it gives you the nuts and bolts, how to prepare and how to work on an advocacy plan for your library. And so much of it is just getting out and reaching out in your community, letting folks know what the library does, how the library adds value to the community, how it promotes community health and wellness. So we're going to be talking about that at VLA, Christine and I, in May, and then we're going to be having another Turning the Page session probably around the beginning of September. We'll start then. So we'll give you information about that later.
What questions? Any? Are your windmills spinning up there? No, there's a lot of opportunity, and you know your community best. And there's a lot of opportunity in the library, at the school level, at your community group level if you have them, at the business level.
Yeah, it was funny. I went to a workshop a week or so ago, and they were talking about how to get teens engaged. And we were talking about, the phrase "Geek the Library." I think, kids love to use Twitter. And, you can have them start a Twitter campaign. What do you eat? And that's something that, I think teens would get into. It would be kind of fun to do something.
Yeah.
I spent 2 hours this morning on strategic planning with a board member. And just doing this kind of stuff. It's really funny. She would have loved it all.
Yeah.
Oh.
Mm.
Well,
She
in
will
that,
love it all when I tell her about it.
yeah, I was going to say,
It'll
in
be-
that info kit that I send, we'll have that stakeholders presentation, or else if you need it now, because I talked to somebody this
Yeah.
morning that had a meeting coming up, if you go into that CMC website and put in the word stakeholders presentation, we've got a little box in there that looks just like Google. It'll bring it up and you can even download it onto your computer. You feel free to put in your own statistics. I think the only thing that may not be updated, because we found a couple weeks ago, we've all been so busy that we did not update how many libraries, and we were like at 300 or so, so it tells how long ago we did it. But you might want to put that info in. Pardon?
Where do you find that?
It's on that CMC where you go in and put in Vermont 123, and get in there. And if anybody has a problem with the code, I can make sure that we can
Yeah.
get it reset.
Is that
Volun-
Vermont?
It's
And-
just Vermont 123 for the,
Yeah, username username is Vermont and password is Vermont 123.
yeah, and
Yeah.
a lot of people will ask me, one of the biggest questions I get is, we just have a lean staff, what do we do? Well, number one, we did that webinar yesterday on how to do it with the lean staff, and I was amazed at the ideas she had. Number two, if you have seniors or a senior center, it's great if you want to take the box of supplies, and a lot of times people will sit around and just stuff them for you. You might start there. We've had Eagle Scouts or Girl Scouts that want to do a community project. So whether it's a book sale, if you don't have a friends group to do that, or whether it's just going out to a chili cook-off or manning a table outside of the strip mall for 2 hours, the Girl Scouts love to do that because sometimes they earn the badges or the patches for community support. If you know of any marketing interns, like if you're near college or your friend of a friend has a daughter that's looking for a job, A lot of times they'll do unpaid marketing internships in your library, and I cannot tell you how many campaigns have done this with a marketing intern, because they're earning college credit and learning how to market, and they have something tangible they can take back to that professor and say, I worked the plan off of this website, here's the plan, and it's a tangible project so that they can see that they actually did something, you know, because sometimes they'll say, what did you do? Well, I worked and I did this and I housed this or I went to this, but they can see that plan and know that that person enacted it. My daughter used to go with me when she was 7 at the time. She would take care of those white Sharpie markers, the silver Sharpie markers. And, Mister, come back here, you've got my pen. But she would engage all the kids at the table while I was talking to the adults. And it worked well so that I could just, a family member. Or you might have a student council that at your school that wants to do a community project. And I would say tap those volunteers, but usually after they see this a few times, we've got people that just, they're hand raisers because they want to get a t-shirt or they want to do something because it's a different side of fun for them that they
Yeah,
have.
and kids are an untapped resource. They love to do, some of them will love to do that, you know, set up a table, have people sign petitions or hand out information or.
Yeah, and I found too that it doesn't hurt to have a little bowl of candy. I would buy a Red Bull at Walmart and Tootsie Rolls or peppermints, something cheap that you can buy in bulk. And they brought the kids to the table while the parents were signing the geek board or talking about things and saying, well, what kind of children's program do you have? I know about summer readings, but what do you do during the rest of the year? And it gives you that opportunity to talk to them. Or maybe you have tutor.com or some kind of homework help set up that they don't know about. Other questions?
I'm looking at these and I'm thinking, these are a wonderful, friendly way to introduce people in the community to the community, or to let people in the community know a little bit more about you. I mean, this lady evidently loves vampires.
She really does.
I don't know, everybody's going to make the leap to how the library is associated with that.
Well, it starts with that conversation. I think it is kind of an abstract way.
Yeah.
I really think it is. But we were talking earlier that just in the conversation of, well, what's your passion? Well, the library can support you, but you know, maybe your passion, fast bikes, isn't at the library, but it gets people talking. Oh, it's the library campaign. Well, I don't particularly use the library, but my kids do, or I remember when, and it gets that conversation going, because ultimately you're going to run into somebody then that will speak back and say, but you know, the library does this, because you've got that mix of barriers to support, the people that would never vote, but they use the library, people that would probably vote yes at a poll if they were educated more, and then the super supporters. I don't go to the library, I don't have time, but gosh darn it, we have to have a library. That is our community. So it's a mixture of everything, and it's kind of organic conversation. But it's a way to promote the library, raise awareness, and when it gets down to the nitty gritty, it's more about the funding and
But
support.
it sounds like the way to start is to have the geek campaign beginning in the library.
So
people
soft
start
launch to raise
talking about
awareness,
it,
yep.
Then go outside with it and
Yeah.
point out, and make sure you're going to all these community events and so forth, and say, here, you will have seen this in the library, because you will have people who have been in the library who will be
And
going
you
to
start
those
with your
things.
patrons who
Yeah,
start,
exactly.
hey, did you see that new campaign? And, oh, look at my picture, I had this made at the library. Well, where did you do that? The library's doing that? And it's great, if you have staff, like maybe if you have John Geeks Basketball, you could put up a display of John, his poster, geeking basketball, and around that, put up maybe some sport movies. It doesn't have to be basketball, but it could be like The Blind Side, or I'm trying to think, Hoosiers, or you know, whatever it is about basketball or football. And then your staff will start saying, John, I didn't realize you geek that. It starts that conversation back and forth, patron to John. And if John's camera shy, just put up a sign, John Geeks. It doesn't have to be.
That's the part,
And then-
that's the part I like about it, Judy. It's the engagement. I mean, if you don't have that piece to it, you know, engagement from the community, get them involved in it.
Yeah.
You're missing a lot. And so having the information there, but reaching out in the community, getting people to participate, I think is the key. Like you
Yeah.
said, that's a really good piece.
I think it's the engagement and kind of rallying around. Because I think so many people, they look at the library as a thing of the past. When you say, what do you like about the library? Well, if they're not a user right now, I remember when I went to the library summer reading, or my grandma took me, and it's this latent kind of love that they love the library, but they're not current with it. But this really provokes them to think about using it or seeing it in a different light and perceiving it differently and getting with the ages of what you have to offer. Because most people don't know if they're not in there every day. And this is that opportunity to say, here we are, we're with you, community. What do you want from us and what can we do for
Yeah,
you?
and that's one of the things where I think rural communities really have an edge, or let's say a plus, because we know our community, we know people, we put a face to a name. And that's more difficult in larger communities, you can't
It
do
is,
that,
yeah.
but in a small community, you know.
I mean, you probably know who likes vampires, but there may be some people that don't take out vampire books, don't know how many you have. Maybe you don't have any.
But I mean, the only thing we
But
ask
they're
is
in the
just
YA
watch
or
those
whatever,
trademarks
they're
too.
not-
That if somebody comes in wanting to geek, Starbucks or Dunkin' Donuts, it's better just to geek something generic. We have had occasions though where we had the Aflac Duck that was on the Geeked Football or Sparty because they've gotten written permission to use it.